Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Imperfect Momming, and we have a very special guest today. Linda, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Linda Lederman, and I am the owner of Balaboosta's Secret. And you may say to yourself, what the heck's a Balaboosta? Never heard of it. Well, Balaboosta is an old-fashioned Yiddish term, and it means a woman who makes a fine home. Now, my fine home is the anti-Martha Stewart home. It's not, don't put your feet on the couch, put a coaster down with your glasses, you're going to make rings. My kind of home is the one where everybody wants to go. It's where your friends want to hang out. It's where your kids' friends want to hang out. And that's really key because you need to know what's happening in your family's life. And if you're the go-to home, you've got all the eyes and ears that you need. So I'm going to give you a little bit about how I got here because I was not always a Balaboosta. I started out as a really terrible cook. When I was a teen, I told my mom her cooking stunk, and she said, okay, smart Alec, then you cook. And she bought me a huge cooking book called The Joy of Cooking, and it had no pictures, and I had no experience, and I had no mentors. And I was determined to make something interesting once a week. That was my job. I had to give my mother a shopping list. She'd get the ingredients, and I would cook one night a week. Well, the first time I cooked veal cordon bleu. I have no idea what it is. I had no idea how to say it. I still can't say it. It came out terrible. I had no pictures. I had no guides. So my parents said, and my brothers said, all right, first time out the gate, cut her some slack. Fine. Next time I made Swedish meatballs. There is no Swedish heritage in my blood. I have never had a Swedish meatball. No idea what I was making. Again, terrible. After the third try, I was banned from cooking for life. Now, I took this as a challenge. I'm not one for defeat. And I said, well, I'm going to show them I'm going to learn how to cook. And that's exactly what I did. I took cooking classes. I actually now own over 1,000 cookbooks, which is kind of crazy, like the Crazy Cat Lady. It's the Crazy Cookbook Lady. And I don't follow a recipe. And so what I do is teach moms how to be great cooks, meaning great home cooks, without the need for stress, without the need for elaboration. And what I say is I teach them how to cook with speed, ease, yum, and fun. And, you know, we all lead busy lives, but we also know that it's so important to have sit-down family meals. And so I teach busy moms how to do that without feeling guilty, without feeling stressed, and to the point where when they sit down for dinner, not only do they have a great time and their family actually eats what they make, but they don't have a whole lot of cleanup afterwards.
Well, that sounds amazing. So I'll invite you over to my house and I'll let you teach me.
Happy to.
It's funny you're telling the story and there's like so many similarities, except I never got to the point of like, let me figure out how to enjoy this and get really good at it. It was just like, my job at one point when I was in high school was one night a week, I was supposed to make meals. And I'm pretty sure I made mac and cheese every single time because that was the only thing I knew how to do. So my son's going to input because that's what he loves to do. Is comment on whatever I'm saying. But so now, I mean, even now for a long time, it was whatever's out of a box, but now I'm trying to eat more healthy and, you know, if it was pasta or some version of boiling noodles and putting sauce on it, I'm really good at that.
and everything else was like, I can follow, I what I know is that I can follow recipes. I really can, especially now you have the videos on recipe blogs, and you can, and so my boyfriend and I will type in like ultimate green bean casserole recipe. So we don't want just the normal stuff. We want the ultimate. We want it to be the best thing that you ever put in your mouth. And by the way, the ultimate green bean casserole recipe, amazing.
That's very funny. So it's interesting that you say that, because a lot of people start out with recipes, and then what happens is they panic because they're missing an ingredient or they don't understand the instructions sometimes. So what I teach women, not only how to read those recipes if you want to use a recipe as a guide, but I teach them what you can substitute in a pinch. And I also teach them how you can adapt a recipe to your family's either food preferences or dietary needs. Because invariably, if you have kids in your family, one kid doesn't like one thing that's usually in every recipe that you want to make. And there's ways to get around things like that. And you have to learn how to have the flexibility, so that gives you confidence and it reduces the stress.
Yeah, I will pick a whole new recipe if it has something that I don't have or that we don't like or something, because like I was never interested. My mom would have showed me if I had asked her to, but I was never interested in learning how to cook. It's just not something that like sparks joy in my life, but we all have to eat. So, and especially when you're trying to eat healthy, and when you're trying to get a 10-year-old to eat healthy, and to get a 40-year-old boyfriend to eat healthy, it's like you have to do stuff that's creative and inventive, and finding the joy in cooking is probably something that would benefit me.
So there's so many ways to do that. But one thing is to try a new seasoning on something, so it boosts the flavor differently than what you know of. But then you can feel like, wow, look what I made. I just had to add the seasoning. It was no effort at all. So that's really good. And one of the reasons why I like to teach moms or dads or their kids in conjunction with them is because once you know how to cook and you can make it healthy, and your kids see you doing that, they can learn those skills. And then they can do it for themselves when they get older, and they can pass those skills on to their family. One of the reasons why I started this business, and I should say I'm a lawyer by profession, and I had my kids late in life, and I said, okay, I need to take some time to be with my kids because I really had them late in life. As they were starting to get a little bit older and their friends would come over for dinner and they'd have sleepovers, their friends would sit at the table and go, my mom doesn't cook like this. We don't play games at the table. And I'm big on making dinner time fun, because you want your kids to hang out and you want them to have a conversation with you that isn't, what'd you do in school today? Nothing. What was your highlight of the day? Nothing. And you're thinking they were away for 8 hours. One thing had to happen to them, but that's not how you nurture conversation at dinner time. And so we have all these games that I teach moms to play, and I play with my kids. And I have a son now who's in college and a daughter who's a junior in high school. And they still come down to dinner and say, what are we playing tonight? And it makes them want to have dinner, and it makes them want to linger, and it makes them want to talk. And so that's just invaluable family time that, especially in this day and age where everybody's running off in 50 million directions, or because they don't know what to say, they look at their phones all the time. Well, we banish phones at the dinner table and we actually have fun. So in terms of finding the joy in cooking, it may not even, and it's different for everybody, but it may not be in, cutting the damn onions, but it may be the fun you have at the table when everybody's enjoying what you're eating and you're having laughter.
Yeah, onions are like the worst.
I cry every time. It's just pathetic. But there's a trick to cutting them, so.
Oh man, I would pay for that. I do feel like my sister is older than me. She's 8 years older than me. And so she had her children when she was 18, and I had my son when I was 30. So our kids are like far apart.
Yep.
But so her kids have kids now, and they're all sitting around the table. Anytime we all get together, they sit around the table and they play games at the table, not during dinner necessarily.
Their own games or games with the people at the table?
Board games, like they're playing with each other. Yeah. So, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. I'm so jealous of that. And I think it was very recently, I was like, I could be doing that. Like, there's no reason to be jealous of it. I could actually choose to do that. We have hundreds of games and we rarely play them.
And if you're worried about getting, food on the games and stuff, we try not to have physical games at the table because I just wanted it to be more verbal and less messy, because I want the games to function outside the kitchen. We have a couple that you just have to press or something. But a lot of them are, you can even do Mad Libs at your table.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's not taking up any space at all. And they're really quite funny. And you could set the ground rules of what's acceptable language or not to use, depending on the age of who's playing. But there's many, many, many games that you can play that don't actually even involve a physical board, because you want people to be paying attention to each other also. But yeah, your sister's setting a really good example.
Absolutely. So are you familiar with the statistic that a family that eats dinner together, like, I don't remember the details of the statistic, but it's just all positive things of families.
Yeah, so the studies show that if you have sit-down family meals, and it doesn't have to be every day of the week, because we all know how hard our lives are, but families who have sit-down dinners, their kids do better in school, they have better social skills, they have better communication skills, they're less likely to abuse illegal substances. And why wouldn't you want any of that? Especially if you're going to have fun while you're eating. So there's so many benefits for having sit-down family meals, and it's really worthwhile to learn the skills to make it fun for you, to make it fast for you, and to make it healthy and delicious and amazingly fun for your family.
So I think it's interesting that you came from the legal world into, your own business, helping other moms from that side, because they're totally different worlds.
They are totally different worlds, but the one thing they have in common, I would have to say, is organizational skills. And you need to be logical and organized to do the kind of legal work that I do. And I think to some extent you have to be organized in the kitchen. And I actually teach moms how to have an organized kitchen, because, I always say, if you know what you have, you know what you need, and you know how to use it, you can't go wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah. My first husband was a professional chef, and he taught.
And you can't cook.
I know. Well, that's why I married a chef. Because he totally would have taught me too. I've never been interested in. It's like, whatever, I don't think about food until I'm hungry. And by the time I'm hungry, I don't want to spend an hour in the kitchen cooking something, right?
Yep.
So he used to always say that I eat to live, I don't live to eat.
I can't stand people like that.
I know. But I think the most valuable thing that he taught me, since I didn't, allow him to teach me to cook, was the clean as you go method. And my boyfriend does the most of the cooking in our house too. If you like something that he makes, you better savor it, because you're never going to taste it again, because he doesn't know what he did. He doesn't know how he did it. He just takes the kind of like what you said, if you know what you have and you know what you don't have and you can throw it all together, he just like takes what he has and throws it together, puts it on high and starts stirring. Yep. And then it's like the best thing you've ever had in your life, but you can't recreate it.
And I bet you he has a lot of joy or feels tremendous creativity when he does something like that.
I think he does. What he wants every meal that he eats to be the most epic meal he's ever had. And so in some way, shape, or form, he has to spruce everything up. Like I made some eggs with cheese and ham for breakfast the other day, and I don't get offended because I know that there's just people that do this. He just took the hot sauce and put it on.
Have you met my kids?
And I can understand how that could be insulting. Like, I just made that the way that I made that, and that's how I wanted it to taste, and you're putting hot sauce on it. Like,
I think all bets are off when it comes to hot sauce.
That's just true.
When they add salt, it bothers me because I thought I seasoned it really well.
Right.
But hot sauce, all bets are off in my family.
And steak with A1, like, it doesn't matter how perfectly seasoned or cooked or anything that your steak is, A1 sauce goes on the steak. Like, that's so just a thing. So what's a piece of advice that you would want to share with our mom listeners?
I would say to get rid of some of the 5 o'clock, oh my God, my kids are asking me what's for dinner and I don't have a clue, panic that we all go through. I would say relax. It's just food. And when you learn some really basic things to do, then you'll be able to throw something together. You just have to learn a couple of basic recipes. And once you know those recipes, it's easy to learn how to adapt them. And what I often tell people is nobody says you have to cook from scratch every night. One of the things that I teach the moms that I work with is how to repurpose their leftovers. So what I have them do is make some part of their dinner in quantity, and then take the leftovers. And a lot of kids don't like leftovers. That's why I say repurpose. You take those leftovers, which have already been partially cooked or partially made, so you're saving time, and remake them into something else for another night. So again, not scratch cooking every night, making something different every night. And you still have a lot of variety, and you're not going, oh my God, it's Taco Tuesday and it's Friday night.
Right.
You don't want to be in that position. So I'll give you a really easy example. So one of the things that my kids love are spicy Asian meatballs. And you can make it with beef, you can make it with pork. We like to make it with turkey, ground turkey, because it's a little healthier. They take no time at all to make. I make them in the oven because I don't want to clean the splatter up of meatballs on my range. So really, really easy to make. And I make a lot. And what I do is one night I'll have the Asian spicy meatballs with what's a pad thai, which is an Asian rice noodle. To make it, you pour boiling water on the noodle. You can't get easier and faster than that. You're not even boiling it. You're pouring boiling water on the noodle, letting it sit for 2 minutes, done. And I'll put a spicy peanut sauce on it, which again, if you're really in a pinch, just use peanut butter, but I add ginger and garlic, and 3 minutes it's done. So I'll serve the meatballs with that one night. The next night I'll take those, or 2 nights later, I'll take those same meatballs and I'll crumble them. And I'll take lettuce leaves, like a butter lettuce or something, and I'll put a little Houston sauce on it. You buy it, you don't make it. So saving it in time. And maybe some shredded carrots that you can buy shredded, and crumble the meatballs and put it on it. And now you're eating a lettuce wrap, kind of like taco sandwich that's Asian flavored. The meatballs had already been cooked. All you're doing is putting Houston sauce on the lettuce and your dinner is done. You got to reheat the meatballs for a minute or two, and that's it. So I teach women how to do things like that. So you have totally different meals, totally different tastes. And that second meal takes no time at all to make.
That's really awesome. And that I had a question at the beginning that went away and now it's come back. So we were at the grocery store discussing people who actually have meal plans for the week. Are you one of those people? Is that
I teach people how to meal plan if that's what they want to do. And there's no one set way to meal plan that's right for everybody, because everybody's different. Everybody's family foods are different. Everybody's schedules are different. So I am at the point where I don't need a written plan, but I get the women that I work with to that point. So it helps if you start with a written plan if you don't know how to do this. But I can go into a grocery store at this point and say, I know I'm going to be running late, let's say Wednesdays and Thursday, or my kids are going to be busy till whatever time, and I have to do something. So I'm not going to plan an elaborate meal that night. So maybe I'll be thinking, okay, well, what can I make the night before that I can have leftovers that I can repurpose? So that's my thought process when I go grocery shopping. How many nights of a week do I really want to cook from scratch? How many times can I repurpose it? What's my schedule like? What's my family schedule like? What do I have that's turning into a science experiment in my refrigerator as I speak? So
Yeah.
you know what you have, know how to use it, know when to use it, know how to keep it fresh. I just did a newsletter for the people who follow Balaboosta Secrets on how to keep your greens longer. Because a lot of times you go to the farmer's market or the grocery store and say, oh, I know I have to eat more vegetables and my family's got to eat more vegetables. And you buy all this wonderful stuff. And then something runs late, or your kid's schedule is late, or you're just too exhausted to cook. And then you open up your drawers and it's like crawling out to meet you already, and you don't want that. So my meal planning is a thought process. It's not a written process. But when I work with women who have not done any of that yet and don't have a deep book of recipes that they can pull, I teach them how to meal plan, how to look at those recipes and see how they can reuse some of that later on in the week. Like if you're making a dish, I make a chicken tikka masala, which sounds really exotic. You can buy a tikka masala sauce from Trader Joe's, your grocery store, or you can make it from scratch. There's no shame in trying to cut a shortcut if you have to. And what I do is I just saute some onion, garlic, ginger, brown my chicken tenders because they take less time to cook because they're thinner. Pour your tikka masala sauce on it, cover it, 10 minutes, your dinner's done. If you want to add some vegetables, throw some spinach in. It'll wilt and it'll look great and your kids won't even know they're eating spinach. But what I'll do is I'll make rice to go with it, and I'll make a double batch of rice. And then maybe a day or two later, I'll take that excess rice and I'm going to make it into fried rice. And maybe I'll put some leftover chicken on it or something. And the reason why I do that is in order to make really good fried rice, you need day-old rice. So make a batch,
Yeah.
You need leftovers to make a good fried rice, for goodness sakes. So when I'm meal planning, I have those things in my mind, but that's how I teach other women to think and look at their cooking.
Yeah, that's really cool. I actually just learned how to make avocados last longer by watching he's a holistic chiropractor who is a former Olympic athlete, and he's like all into intermittent fasting and keto and all that. So, and I love listening to his stuff. Anyway, he said you buy them when they're green, let them sit out until they're a little bit squishy, and then you put them in the refrigerator. And I was like, oh, life-changing, because I bought like 5 of them. I'm going to change your life
a little bit more. Yes, that's a great tip. So here's something. So my daughter will announce, I want tacos tonight with avocados. Now, you're really lucky if you can go into a grocery store on any given day and find the one ripe avocado they have the day you need it to be ripe. But if you take an avocado and put it in a brown paper bag with either an apple or some onions, those apples and onions give off a gas that actually ripens other vegetables. And awesome. So that's a quick way to ripen your avocado if you need it in a pinch.
Perfect. Thank you for that, because I will use that.
Some people even actually microwave their avocado for a couple of seconds to ripen it if they really need it and their kids are really insistent.
All right then.
I haven't tried that. I have not tried it.
Right. Well, I appreciate your time today and pouring into our listeners and into me, and let us know where we can find you.
Sure. You can find me at balaboostasecret.com, and you'll post the links to these, I hope. You can find me at Easy Weeknight Dinners for Busy Moms on Facebook. It's a free group. There's recipes. I just did a live video on 5 springtime dinner side dishes that you can make in minutes. That's really, really fun. So pop over and join me in that group. I also have a freebie for your listeners. And when you sign up for the freebie, you'll get on my mailing list, and that'll give you a way to reach out to me. You'll find out what kind of good fun stuff I have coming up, what kind of videos, what kind of classes, and all kinds of tips and tricks.
Perfect. Well, thank you again. And we will have another episode of Imperfect Momming next week. And until then, keep healing. Bye.
Bye. Thanks much.
Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids, do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AlysiaLyons.com. That's AlysiaLyons.com. See you next time.